to fire regime. Mr. Oliveras will be from the Catalan and Fire and Rescue Service will be explaining us the scaling laws in fire empirical data characterizing the singularity of the Pyrenean region.
Hello, thank you very much, Marta. Let me tell you in advance that for me this is quite a challenge to explain you what we are doing, but I'll try to give you my best. Let me confess you, firstly, that when I realized that presentation was in the session of fire impacts and lessons learned, I was a little bit confused, yes, because lessons learned is not always a funny game. But after a while, I realized that maybe it would be it could be a good way to explain understand the roots of that project. Okay, so the question is simple to understand why we are trying to deal with what I will introduce you. Is what have we learned during the last year from the global community of experts in fire science and wildland organizations that could be useful during the next decade, for example, in the context of the north of our country, in the Pyrenees. And then I realized that maybe that question could help to understand what we are trying to deal with, okay? So for us, as an organization, we are talking those last years more and more about the pyrocumulus phenomenon and the pyrocumulonimbus phenomenon. So the question is, could we have that kind of scenarios in the Pyrenees? Yes. So we think so. Yeah, we think we are in that trend. So what we think on the other side that from lessons learned is that we should try to manage this complexity from a more creative and resilient point of view. Okay, so I spent many time with the first one, so I'll go very fast with the rest one. Okay, according to the climate change scenarios, for example, and according to the types of ecosystems that we have in that region, in the north of in the Pyrenees, the conclusions seems pretty clear, besides the uncertainty that there is obviously with climate change, but we have a higher probability to have these new events in that region. In other terms, we can say that we are crossing the line from first and second fire generations to jump to convective fires, third generation of fires, what we call third generation of fires, and even the case of pyrocumulonimbus. Yes, and this is a big change in the game, because we are talking about 6 orders of magnitude in terms of power ratio that are able to dissipate this new type of fires. Yes, it's completely out of any emergency organization capacity. So very fast, our work could be summarized in two transdisciplinary lines of work. The first one is more analytical. It consists in measuring and monitoring the evolution at a scale of fire regimes of the self-organization and typing points at that level of fire regimes. And it's been done with in the framework of a PhD program with this university, And thanks God, there is a second line of work that is more empirical and tangible. That for us, it's pretty easier. We like that. And it consists in broaden the strategical toolbox that we have at the current times. Try to apply a more creative strategies in our problem. Okay, I just want to show you a little bit some stuff related with self-organization, which is an attribute of complex systems that can be applied to understand the fire regimes. And they have intrinsic attributes, emergence, hysteresis, percolation, criticality. And we are also studying the evidence of that kind of behaviors through the analysis of the empirical data that we have in the case of Catalonia. So in order to increase and enrich the current information, the goal is not focus on characterization of the fire regimes, but we are aware that the more information we get, the more advantage we have to understand the specific problem of that region that, on the other hand, is in the Mediterranean region, but is on the mountain. It's pretty different, the fire regimes, than the rest of the country. So we have analyzed more than 4,000 size classes, not fires, size classes, and we have done for all Catalonia, for each homogeneous fire regime zone, and these are the kind of results that we get, maps, tables, and some plots like those ones that make us understand at a scale of fire regimes the influence, the relative influence that may play, for example, the difference in topography or the efficacy of the suppression force, for example, etc., etc. Okay, the second line. I say, thanks God, we have a second line of work, more empirical, and this is a picture of a control burn that we did in winter in this specific place where we are carrying on in this project, and there is nothing new on that picture. Yeah, it's a control burn and nothing new, but the point here is show you that a few weeks ago here we had a fire just in that place, and we did our job as usual, and we extinguished the fire 2 months ago in that specific place. And we were fully aware that we had, according to our prescribed burning program, we had a job to do here after. So the dilemma, it's easy to understand, is could we in some way take advantage of some of the situation, not all, but in some cases, take advantage on specific places of that kind of situations in order to manage this dilemma of fighting the fires or create a landscapes that could be more resilient in terms of having more possibilities when we have the worst side phase of the fires, yes? It's a change of paradigm, we say, from confrontation to cooperation with fire, and we expect, because this is not a model, or this is not a reality that we can contrast with the past, but we expect with this kind of way of thinking, we can increase and enhance in terms of safety. For example, for us, it's better because we have the opportunity to decide with and make decisions that drive us to a scenario that we want to reach. It's different that make decisions according only about the extinguished part of the strategy. And also, in some cases, there are synergies with other stakeholders of the community, like this case with the farmers, for example. So I don't go through that, just show you the idea. It's a document that is completely open. It's now being working on that. We are working on that, and we are trying to design a master plan. I don't know the name in English. I say, I look it, but master plan for prescribed fire in that region in order to integrate different interests of the stakeholders of the community in the case of eventual fire, and how we can broaden the strategical toolbox integrating not only confinement, also management. We are focused now only with the interest of Forest Service and farmers, but we are aware that there is the possibility to integrate other fields and interests, like, for example, biodiversity, or allowing or prescribing some beneficial fires that we can have in specific regions, or things related with, for example, geological risk, avalanche, etc. But we need the information of the experts, and also some tools that maybe are more familiar with the tools that you use as a scientist, okay? I think I'm running out of time. Oh, 1 minute, perfect. Okay, just maybe point out to close the presentation and linking it with the first part, the question that I sent to you about lessons learned.